influencing the present. I'm confused. Yeah, me too. Is it better to live a life authentic to my feelings or just play it safe? Example, job, marriage, livelihood, country, etc. Or I can just play it safe and stay as is in life. No, my advice as a monk is live on the wild side. I'm a wild monk. Authentic to your feelings. Sometimes authenticity. Do you really know your feelings? Your feelings change from day to day, from moment to moment. So what is the real feeling you have? And you can't play it safe anyway. So a lot of times, in this very moment, forget about tomorrow, forget about next 5 minutes. Right now, what can you do? You haven't got a job here. In marriage, we're not going to sort of propose to anybody not in this retreat, and hopefully you haven't put your hands in the stupas to try and touch the Buddha statue to find real love yet. And livelihood, you got enough livelihood just by being here for a while. And country, you're in Australia. So just at the moment, accept where you are and who you are. And that's being authentic to the moment. Instead of having all these plans of where you're going to go, what you're going to do, and how it's going to work out. Because real life, it doesn't go according to your plans. That's why I forget to sort of try and sort of think and plan what I'm going to talk about. A few times I've done that. I've got out and sort of decided, I'm going to talk about this today. And then as soon as I see you guys, I think, well, that's not a really nice thing to talk about. I'll talk about something else. I always change my mind. Do you change your mind as well? You know why you change your mind? Because it's anicca, the law of nature. Everything changes. So don't sort of blame your wife because she's a girl for changing her mind. That's what minds do. They get changed. So that's the nature of life, to change your mind. So you can't know what's going to happen in the future. So when it comes to planning your life, life doesn't go according to your plans. When I became a monk, I thought I'd just stay in some cave and just be nice and peaceful. Never ever did I think that I'd be traveling around the world, having my photograph taken and signing books. That's the last thing I thought I'd ever be doing. But that's what I spend most of my time doing these days. But this is why you don't know what is going to happen next in life. So just see what happens. And just don't plan so much. Dear Ajahn, for your information, Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist who could hypnotize potential people and help them to recall their past life memories. People who got hypnotized reporting that they gained insight by recording their past lives. Another one is psychic John Edwards, who could communicate who people and pets who had passed away, with people and pets who had passed away. Amazing. Can you actually communicate with a cat? Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Must be able to speak cat language. No, of course, don't speak. He often gives readings to help people come out of their grief. One more master is from Taiwan who can read people's past lives and mind. He will tell that person's problems without that person telling him. His way, get the person to do more chanting and share merits with certain beings. Are the above methods encouraged in Buddhism? As in the sutra, Buddha actually didn't encourage people to do these. But these people are doing good things and helping people. Please advise. Thanks. Okay, it's a big question there. But there are people who can regress you into past lives, but they can only regress a few people. It's very difficult to do. And a lot of people, they're not able to succumb to hypnosis, and you can't get them into their past lives. So for a lot of people, they might give it a go, but it just doesn't work for you. For some people, it does work for people. And they can get some insight and understanding. A lot of times people do this because they're in problems and difficulties, and other things won't help them. I remember Dennis telling me a story, Dennis Shepherd, when he went to a conference over in the East. And one of the hypnotists over there, he said that he regressed, it's a lovely story, he regressed this young 16-year-old girl because she was anorexic. And she was so bad with anorexic, not being able to eat anything, she ate something, just vomited it out, that she was getting so sick that the doctors were really concerned for her life. And they'd gone through the psychologists and psychiatrists, nothing was helping her. So the mother decided to try and take her to one of these hypnotic regressionists. It's not a dangerous thing, so it just costs a little bit of money, and who knows, it might work. In this case, it actually worked, but not exactly as the mother expected. Because this 16-year-old girl, she was easy to hypnotize. Because she was that age, the mother had to be with her when she was being hypnotized. She got hypnotized and got into a past life where she recalled that she was the younger of two sisters. And they'd both fallen in love with the same guy. Her elder sister was more attractive. She was plain. And guys being guys, as I keep saying, chosen the beautiful one. Absolutely stupid. You always choose the ugly one. It's much more fun in life. But he chose the beautiful one. And the younger sister, she was so heartbroken that she committed suicide. And she said, that was me in my previous life. I just fell in love with this guy. My sister did too. She got him. I couldn't have him. And I just couldn't stand it, and I killed myself. And that's one of the reasons why in this life I'm just going way over the top trying to be beautiful by just not eating so I can be slim and attractive, what people think that guys are like. And it makes a lot of sense, that being unattractive causes so much stress, so much suffering, so much trauma that she killed herself. And so you can see the desire to be attractive in this life. Now the weird thing was that when she told this story, her mother, who was in the same room, she started bawling. She started becoming hysterical. And the poor hypnotist had two crazies in the room. And so, I shouldn't say crazies, but anyway, the hypnotist had to calm the mother down. What's going on? And that's when the mother said, I was her sister in a previous life. That was me. I never told my daughter because obviously that she was born after I got married. I had a younger sister. We both fell in love with the same guy. This is my daughter's father. And she committed suicide. That's my sister, now my daughter. Fascinating. You can see how it works. She could not be that guy's husband, so she came back as his daughter. That's as close as she could get. And that's that typical, the way that karma, like craving, attractions, attachment actually works. Pulls us into the same life together. And you understand what's going on then. And what does happen with these getting into your past lives, it explains so much of why people are as they are. But the other story, which I can't tell you the person because he is reasonably well known in Perth, his brother was having some emotional and social difficulties, and nothing was working, and he heard that Dennis Shepherd, the ex-president of Buddhist Society, marriage celebrant, he gets into all sorts of interesting stuff. And he thought maybe I'll take my brother to Dennis to get him a regress to see if he can find some solution to his problems. But what happened was he thought, well, before I take my brother, I'll try it out myself. Let's see what it is. And he was in the military reserve. I'm trying to not give you too many details. He was in the military reserve. He was on some terrorist training exercise in Perth off Garden Island. And so he was very exhausted when he came to see Dennis. And he said that he thinks that's one of the reasons why he could get regressed so easily the first time. And he got regressed. And he got this memory back that he was standing on the pier in Fremantle watching the redcoats, the British soldiers. And he was quite surprised because he didn't think the British soldiers ever came to Perth. And he was actually wearing a brown uniform, which he didn't know what it was. And all of the memories started coming back, the names, his wife, where he met his wife in a pub in Fremantle. And they checked everything afterwards, as you would. Now, this guy never believed in reincarnation or rebirth, but he comes to the Buddhist Society. He never believed in it before, but when he started checking it out, it was spooky, because that particular time, he remembered the year, the Redcoats were in Fremantle for a few years. And the brown uniform was the uniform of this particular type of military who would look after the prisoners, the convicts. And they would volunteer. He was from Ireland. There was no Northern and Southern Ireland in those days, it was just Ireland. And a very poor family. He remembered what his mother did, spinning flax, the house, so poor that even though he hated the English, because he was Irish, that nevertheless he thought, I better serve the English, because that will give me a way out of poverty. And if he volunteered for 3 years' service here in Perth, after 3 years looking after the convicts, then he would be given a grant of land, and that's what he did. And he got his grant of land somewhere in some north of Albany, somewhere in the southwest, some name I never heard of. And he remembered everything, the stone house he built, and of course everything checked out. Everything. And it was just amazing. And he said, I never believed in reincarnation before, but now I know it's true. That was me. And the fascinating part now is he really wants to help the Buddhist Society as much as he possibly can. He has to keep the 5 precepts, 5 Buddhist precepts. I don't have any choice anymore. And he did it with resignation, because he liked a bit of beer and alcohol every now and again. But now he remembered previous lives, he knew how it all works. It's amazing just how that made him really, really a very virtuous Buddhist, when he realized that this reincarnation business is not a myth, it's going to happen. Because he remembered his last time. So, it's just no choice anymore, I can't mess around. So it's interesting, that reaction which he had to accepting eventually his reincarnation, and that's why he's in the military this life. He was in the military in the previous life as well. So the tendencies are pretty much the same. Really good guy though, but now he's got this great impetus, not the impetus, what is it? The great has to keep the 5 precepts, because he remembers his past lives. John Edward can communicate with people who passed away. There used to be these psychics and spiritualists before. A lot of them, you don't know whether that really was your grandma who passed away. So, who knows whether that's true or not. But every now and again, these psychics, they say something or do something which is really weird. Most of the time, it's rubbish. And so they ask Ajahn Brahm, do you believe in all this sort of stuff? And if you haven't heard me tell this story before, this is part of my family history. In England, my mother was a single child, and my mother's auntie also had a single child. They were born around at the same time, and my mum was named Hazel. This girl was called Opal. They grew up as sisters, even though they were literally cousins. But they went out together because they didn't have any other siblings, and they were cousins. They lived close by. So my mum and Opal, they would go everywhere together, and especially when they were young, to dances and stuff. And one day, just like many people, they went to go and see one of these spiritualist mediums, just to see, a bit of entertainment, never believing in anything. And then this medium came up to my auntie, this lady Opal, and said, you are sure, she was about 19 or something at the time, you're going to meet a guy soon, and you're going to marry him. And his name is Donald Wolfries. Now, it's not a common name. And it was so specific. You're going to meet this guy, Donald, his surname is going to be Wolfries, and you're going to get married. And he thought that was just ridiculous. How could anyone know that? And you never knew anyone with that name. And of course, what happened a week later at some sort of dance with my mum, and I met this guy, came and asked her to have a dance. What's your name? Donald. Surname? Wolfries. And they just, when I was over in England visiting my brother, they were just celebrating, I don't know, about their 70th wedding anniversary or something. They've been married a long time, 60th wedding anniversary or something really big. Still both alive, still together. And You know, I kept asking my mother and my auntie and the Uncle Donald, was that actually true? I said, yeah, that happened. That's absolutely true. When that happens in your family, you know there's something going on there, that they can actually predict who you're going to marry. But sometimes the predictions don't work. Because I also remember there's this gentleman who comes to Bodhinyana Monastery every year for my birthday. And on this particular occasion he came, and for my birthday present on August the 7th, he decided to get my horoscope for the year. To predict what would happen. And you know, he's an ex-lawyer, so you can imagine what lawyers are like. And he read it in front of the assembled group who came for my birthday. And he said, for someone who was born on August the 7th, this year, Ajahn Brahm, this is you, this year will be a very, very good year for romance. That was my horoscope. And it didn't work out, you see, so I don't believe horoscopes anymore. Just as well. Anyway, so sometimes some of these ones you can't trust, that's the problem. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And so sometimes Taiwan read people's past life and mine, so you don't really know. The nice thing with regression, though, whether it's true or not, that really is your past life, sometimes people get the details, like this fellow in Perth got the details, so he's absolutely convinced, it all matches. But for a lot of people, it doesn't really matter if it's a past life or not, because when they go back to this past trauma, they do actually get a lot of healing. And whatever it was they had before, whether it's anorexia or some fear or some tummy ache which can't go or some anxiety attack, it actually lessens enormously, if not goes completely, which is one of the reasons why it's a very good therapy. Whether it's reincarnation or not, it works and gets people more healthy. That's why it's worth doing. And because it's worth doing, because it's good for your health sometimes, that's why as a Buddhist you promote it. Sometimes, you know, it's not past lives, but it works. It creates you more healthy, so why not? Here we go again. Oh my goodness. Why is urine drinkable? Any proof from scientists? If it is good, why did you stop drinking it? Thank you. You can only take so much good. You know, you don't want to be too healthy. You don't want to show off to other people. So I try my best not to be too healthy, because if I'm perfectly healthy, then you don't have any opportunity to make merit by giving me medicines and looking after me when I'm sick. So out of compassion to you, you try and get sick every now and again. Is that a good idea? Because when I'm sick and start coughing, then you can offer me some medicines. And if I'm always so healthy, it means you can't make merit, you can't do good karma by looking after the sick. So it's very good that you volunteer to be sick from time to time. So next time you are sick, as I tell people, tell your wife, darling, this is your opportunity to make good karma. I'm sick. Look after me. Which he usually does anyway. But I drank it for about 4 years and I was in very good health, so it worked anyway. I didn't die in those 4 years, but I haven't died since either, so who knows. But anyway, it's a fun thing to do. Why not? Maybe you can bottle it and have different flavours. Strawberry flavour, you can have orange flavour, you know, because change it a little bit. Anyway, I'm not going there any longer. Is it possible for an 8-precept nun, Mechi, to be enlightened and remain in her white robes until she passes away without getting a full ordination? Thank you, that's a nice question. There was one Mechi in Thailand, Mechi Gi. Some of her teachings were translated, and from what she wrote, she sounds like the real thing. You know, certainly sort of an Aryan, a stream winner, if not fully enlightened. And she was an 8-precept nun, but because she was an 8-precept nun in Thailand, of course, Luang, that's the name of the pen name. Because she was an 8-precept nun, she was living the life of a renunciate. So even though her robes were white, she was living as if she was a bhikkhuni. And because of that, you say, yeah, sure, why not? And that's the best she could possibly do in Thailand at that time. And I was really always kicking myself because I had the opportunity to go and visit her once. I was staying in Bangkok and the people were going up to visit her and say, do you want to come? And I just wanted to meditate instead of going to see people. So I was never into touring around. You know, even when I go traveling, you know, people ask me, I went to, was it a year or two ago, I went to Las Vegas. You know, do you want to see the casino? What do you want to see the casinos? Do you want to see the Strip? I never went down the Strip. What do you want to go and see? I'm a monk. Do you want to go and see the Grand Canyon? I've never seen the Grand Canyon. So I'm not interested in seeing the Grand Canyon. Just get me a postcard, have a look at that. That's good enough. And recently I was in Toronto. Go and see Niagara Falls. I've never seen Niagara Falls. What do you want to go see Niagara Falls for? You know, go Serpentine Falls, just down the road. That's good enough. A fall is a fall, waterfall is a waterfall. So I'm not really into touring around at all. So I said, no, I'll just stay and meditate today. I was kicking myself because that was a really great nun that, you know, I should have gone and seen her. So yeah, it may be possible. You can actually get some of her books that have been translated into English and they're very inspiring. But she does a Mechi Gi is her name, but I think her books are under Ko Suan Luan. Is there a difference in the types of meditation taught on a Vipassana retreat and this retreat? Can you please explain the difference? This is a nice, calm, beautiful, delicious, happy meditation where you get so calm and peaceful and happy. You get into deep meditations and you get into jhanas. In some of those retreats, if you start getting nimittas, they tell you to stop it. Naughty. And you're not supposed to get into jhanas because they say you'll get attached to the jhanas. That's ridiculous. Because the Buddha said, if you indulge in the pleasures of meditation, if you do get attached to the jhanas, there are 4 and only 4 consequences. Only one of these 4 things will happen to you if you get attached to the jhanas. Stream winning, once returning, non-returning, or full enlightenment. Nothing else. You're supposed to enjoy the jhanas. You're supposed to attach to them. That is the raft which gets you across the stream. You are supposed to get attached to the raft. Don't let it go until you're across. People say Buddhists, you shouldn't be attached. That is a bunch of gomayang. If you want to know the Pali word gomayang, you know, because I've got to be careful with my speech these days. I really get told off every now and again. But go means bull, and mayang means what comes on out of the bottom of the bull. You know, go is bull, and mayang means, you know, the S word comes at the bottom. So I can't sell bullshit. So oops. So I say gomayang instead. So that's a bunch of gomayangs saying, no, you're going to get attached. You should never get attached. And I tell people, if you are going in the traffic in Colombo, in Bangkok, in Jakarta, or in Singapore on the back of a motorbike, please be attached. Don't let go. So because of that sometimes it's good to be attached to some things. So one of the differences, I think the Vipassana retreats are changing. You know, before they thought that no, jhanas should not be done, and they looked down upon people who did jhanas, but it is changing. I remember when I went to the United States many years ago, and I've been teaching enough to be well known, especially teaching jhanas, and when I went over there, I got these invites to have tea with Joseph Goldstein and Jack Cornfield. These were the main leaders in the American Vipassana tradition. And I thought, you know, what they want to have tea with, and they were just grilling me on jhanas. What are the jhanas? How do you do them? And I thought you guys weren't interested in jhanas. And they said, yes, our teachers told us to start doing jhanas because Vipassana was not working. They weren't getting very far, and they had enough intelligence to look at how the Buddha taught, and jhanas were right there. It's the 8th factor of the Eightfold Path, and you can't get away from that. It's clear. And you can't get enlightened without jhanas. It's very clear. And they saw that, and so they wanted to introduce more jhana practice in the American Vipassana tradition. And so it has that now. So the Vipassana traditions have changed, you know, even in the last 20 years. So it's coming more to what we're doing here. But the other thing main difference, is the attitude to meditation. Because in some of those Vipassana retreats it's very formal and very disciplined, where you have to get up at a certain time, where you have to meditate for 45 minutes. Everyone sits down at the same time. You ring the bell, everyone gets up. It is like a military camp. And that type of discipline is very different than what we do here. For those of you who've been coming a long time, well, Bianca's gone at the back. Oh, there she is, over there. Remember, Bianca, the retreats we used to do early on? It was exactly the same. We'd have bells. You had to get up at a certain time. You had to go meditate at a certain time. You rang the bell for sort of walking meditation, and it was all sort of regimented. And too often, in my own experience, I was really getting into some nice meditation, getting really peaceful, gong, and you had to get up. And you're spoiling just getting nice meditation. And other times that people were just having a really hard time, having to sit for 45 minutes. They'd had enough after about 25 minutes, and they had to just endure, which meant they were getting very painful. And I realized people were getting tense and they were hurting, and that was something very wrong. They weren't getting much benefit out of the meditation. And in fact, we always used to joke that the reason why we take the group photograph at the end of the meditation, when everyone was smiling at the end of the retreat, was because they're going home now. They would look so happy. And it was just because they're getting rid of pain, that the retreat had finished. Wow, I can no more to endure anymore. And there was something very wrong with that. So because of that, I started the tradition. And I remember telling Jack Corfin and Joseph Goldstein this, and they said, wow, yeah, that's such a good idea. The no bell silence. No bells, silence. So don't ring the bell in the morning. So, you're not sort of controlled like Pavlovian dogs, always told when to sit and when to get up. You do it naturally. And when I started doing that, I found people were meditating much more. They were staying up later, they were getting up earlier than if we had a schedule. Why was that? Because why are you coming here? You're coming here to meditate. You've had to really struggle to get in on this retreat, and some of you come a long way to get here. So you don't need to be motivated anymore. You're already motivated. The fact you're here. So I don't need to say meditate, 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 because that's what you come here for. I just got to make it easy for you and make it comfortable and say, here are the places, make use of them. So that's why you don't need to force people. So the force which you see in some of those old type retreats, you just get rid of that a long time ago, and people get far better meditation. Not only get better meditation, they enjoy coming here, and they're not afraid of coming here. I know many people in Malaysia and Singapore where there are many Vipassana retreats, they're afraid to go. Their wife said, come on one of these retreats. No. Why? Because I'm afraid. The pain, the lack of sleep, and just the endurance. I don't have that. And you can see in a retreat like this, it's enjoyable, it's comfortable, it's fun. That's why people want to come. So you get many more people coming on a retreat like this, and they get far better results, and they want to come back again. That, of course, is a problem because there's always a big waiting list of people trying to get in. But it's a good sign that you're getting something beautiful out of this. And it's not forceful, it's very gentle. So those are some of the major differences. It's nothing to do with watching the breath or doing this. It's how you watch the breath. It's not whether you scan the body or what you do with the body. It's how you look at your body. Whether you do it with force or whether you do it with gentleness. Whether you do it with ill will or kindness. So that's the difference there. Can you sit on any chair, or are they allocated to people? You can sit on it. You can even sit on my chair, but you have to give the talk and answer the questions and do the chanting. That'd be great. You can come and try it. So yeah, you can sit on any chair but be a bit careful because sometimes that people have got their favourite chairs already. They've got it all set up with their cushions and with their blankets and with everything else, their cup of coffee, their coffee machine, as I was saying the other day. If you don't want to go out to go to the toilet with the little, the bedpans. Has anyone got the bedpan yet? No, please don't do that. if you really want to sort of have to go to the toilet, especially urinate during the meditation, you don't want to get up because it's spoiling your meditation, just get your cup in here and then down there. That's very efficient. Recycling. Okay, anyway. Is there any advantages to meditating in a group as opposed to meditating alone? If you're in a group, that you do sometimes get the peer pressure, which means that, unless you are just really, really enlightened, you're always worried about what other people think of you. So sometimes, if you're in your room, sometimes I think, it's late, so I go to bed. And it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't need to get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. No, I don't need to get up at 6 o'clock. 6:45. I've got to get up now for the breakfast. But when there's peer pressure, sometimes that just encourages you to put a bit more effort into the practice. And that's about all. But the downsides of peer pressure is people always make noises. And sometimes in the peer pressure, and when you're in a group, if there's a good meditator in the group, it actually brings you up. If there's a bad meditator, it takes you down. So sometimes, that's why I get up here in the morning to meditate with you guys, because try and bring you up, get good meditation coming up. Because I've noticed that again and again and again. When I have a good meditation in Bodhinyana Monastery, all the other monks have good meditation, or most of them have good meditations as well. You can actually tune into one another and really get everybody going. So that's why one of the reasons I try and come here as much as I possibly can, which is not very, very much. So that's one advantage in meditating in group, if you've got a good person there meditating with you. Okay, Nietzsche. I feel like passing wind during meditation. Should I let go or hold it in with loving kindness towards others? It is nature to pass wind. For those people who do have that problem, please sit in the back. If you sit in the front line, then all the people behind you have to suffer your smells. But if you sit in the back, then no one suffers it, because you've just got a wall behind you. And that is one of the reasons why people sit in the back. So you can know that all the people sitting in the back and on the sides, they have wind problems. It's not the wind disturbs you. It's you disturb the wind. Dear Ajahn, if intent to kill is bad karma, when someone goes to the butcher and buys beef, or here we go again, or chicken, knowing very well with their purchase, they're actively participating in killing of more animals in this bad karma. We know what Lord Buddha has said to monks. Monks should openly declare eating any flesh of any living being is bad karma, in my humble opinion. Now, what the Buddha actually said for the monks is, number one, there's a lot of difference between killing it yourself and buying something from a shop. I've only ever killed one animal in my whole life, decent animal, and that was a mouse. And that was because my father had just died. There was a mouse running around my mother's apartment. She was terrified of mice, even though they're tiny little things. And so I set the trap, and I was very smart. I caught that mouse, and I took it to the rubbish bin. And I was stroking this incredibly beautiful little mouse which I'd caught. It was just so soft, and now it was dead. And I felt so terrible about that. Now that's actually killing it yourself. No, you're responsible. You took a life away. And that is a total different feeling inside than going to a butcher and getting some sausages, or getting a mouse, to whatever you're using a mouse for. So it's a totally different thing. So it's killing is a problem. But with the monks, the Buddha said specifically that monks, if you know that thing has been killed especially for you, then you can't eat it. And many of you know just the terrible food which I had to eat when I was first in Thailand. Frogs, snails, ants' eggs, anything which slithered you had to eat, rats. And I was told not to ask what you ate, But sometimes you couldn't miss it because you saw it. And so it was really gross food. And the first Christmas, I was in Thailand, maybe that was second Christmas, this American came. He'd married a Thai girl, and for his little business, he had a turkey farm. And he said, "Oh, I'll get you guys a turkey for Christmas." And straight away I thought, I'm going to eat something which is, digestible for a change, instead of, snails. If you ever eat a snail, it's like eating an eraser. It's that hard and just rubbery. It's gross. And I get something delicious for a change. And then the guy said, "I'll choose a nice fat one for you." And as soon as he said that, "I'll choose one especially for you," my heart sank. We had to say, "No, don't get it." If he'd have just got one from the shelf, it would be allowable for monks. But you can't choose and have it killed especially for you. That was where the Buddha drew the line. And so we tried. There's always lines to be drawn. So sometimes you say, "Okay, no meat at all." You draw the line there. Then what about, I was with, what was it, recently talking to, that's right, it was on the way to Kuala Lumpur in Singapore airport. There's one of the Buddhist Fellowship members, and he knew me, so he came and said hello. Said, "Well, you've been in Singapore doing business. What is your business?" "It's chemicals for pest control, for spraying all the bugs in the carrot fields." And he said, he was saying this, even vegetables, you kill so many animals to get enough vegetables for people to eat today. You just can't get just organic vegetables for everybody. There's not too many people, not enough veggies. And we were talking to Stephen that, where do you draw the line? Sort of sometimes that every carrot you eat, as many bugs are being killed to get your carrot. So it's where you draw the line. You try and lessen, as best you possibly can, the killing of animals. And that's what Buddhist monks do. Lessen it. You can't eliminate it. Do you know any other good meditation teachers from other parts of the world? Yes, there are 2 good nuns over there. There are 2 good monks over here. There's lots of good meditation teachers, but it's up to you to find them. So, and these days you can get it on the internet. You can sort of ask people who's a good meditation teacher, but all the best meditation teachers come to Jhana Grove sooner or later. So the ones who come here, they're okay. Does nimitta arise in different colours? Example, purple and green. Yes, for modern people, you can actually get your nimitta in new colours. And especially this week, we have the pink colour on special offer, just for this week only. No, it does not matter what colour the nimittas are, because sometimes they change. And the type of colour has no importance at all, except the depth and the beauty of the colour. Now that really is important. So it doesn't matter if it's a pink, if it's a white, if it's a gold, if it's a deep blue, as long as it's really very, very beautiful. And sometimes these nimittas are colours you just do not see in the real world. It's like a yellow, but it's a deeper yellow than anything you could ever see. And that depth, intensity and beauty is typical of the nimittas. And say any colours. There was once, actually this guy was a pest exterminator, but he had some good meditation, and when he saw his nimitta, it was a black one. And I'd never heard of a black nimitta before, but I questioned him, and he said it was just so deep black, it was incredibly beautiful. It was like satin, it was shimmering, it was blissful. So, okay, that's a nimitta. So, there is black nimittas, white nimittas, any colour nimittas you possibly want. So that's true. The colours are not important, but the depth, the power of it, that is important. Why and when should we go for interview? I don't want to waste your time with my little triumphs and sorrows. If there's something I can help you with, then go for the interview. But it's not just hanging out with Ajahn Brahm time. It is something useful. And I must say the best way of actually asking a question is on these pieces of paper. Because so often during interviews, people come up and they ask a question, and I wish you could have written it down on a piece of paper. It's such a beautiful, deep question, And instead of just answering one person, I could answer many people, even have it recorded on tape as well, on the internet. So the answer could go around to many people. So the best thing, if you do have a question, write it on a piece of paper and then we share it with everybody. But if it's some personal understanding you want to have about your meditation practice, fine, you can come up and ask. For the bell ringer, for Brian bell ringer, we don't have a bell ringer, do we?
Brian, it's not mine on the question. Maybe Brian was the bell ringer at Safety.
Oh, that must be an old one. Sheepers. Do Buddhists have to be vegetarians in order to keep the first precepts? I think I've already answered that one. The answer is no. Oh, Brian or Brahm, the bell ringer?
Oh no, I didn't write.
Okay, I don't know anyway. In the sutta, the Buddha mentioned about his past life. Is that means there is an entity that passes through one life to another in the cycle of reincarnation? Is that the soul or a consciousness? Even some monks claim there is another type of consciousness that exists after Nibbana. I feel confused because in sutta said, cease without remainder. Indeed, that once Nibbana happens, that is the end, finish, poof. Nibbana means cessation, and I mentioned the other day, like a flame is extinguished. The flame doesn't go somewhere else. It doesn't fly through the air to the heaven of all flames. If it's been a good flame, it just finishes, stops. It's extinguished. But when it comes to reincarnation and rebirth, what goes across from one to another? There's many similes. The simile which I like to tell people is a simile of the mango. You eat your mango when you plant the seed in the garden, and the seed eventually germinates. A little, looks like a piece of grass comes up first of all, and that gets bigger as it gets wooden at the stem. A little sapling starts to grow. The sapling gets bigger, and soon you have a little tree, and the tree gets bigger until it becomes a proper tree, and then it starts to flower. And then little buds appear at the base of the flower and swell, and that becomes a mango, and you eat your new mango. What went across from the first mango to the new mango? Nothing went across. There's nothing in the first mango which is in the new mango. No DNA is changed, no molecules or cells from the first mango and the second mango. It's all changed, but you can see a connection between the first mango and the second mango. You can see every step of the process and how one part of the process causes the next part as one seed becomes a new tree. Nothing goes across, but it's not different. The new tree is not an apple tree, it's a mango tree. It carries the karma of the past. If the old mangoes were really sweet, the chances are the new mangoes will be really sweet. If the old mangoes were drought resistant, the new ones will probably be drought resistant. You see how it takes some of the characteristics from one life to another. So the way the Buddha called it, he called it stream of consciousness. Just like a river which you observe from on top of a bridge. It looks the same day after day after day, but you know the water going under the bridge today is not the same as the water which went underneath yesterday. It's totally changed. So this stream of consciousness, it looks the same, but it's actually very different. And the banks of the river, that's like the karma. It just guides where you can flow and where you can't flow. And the current is the craving, pushing you along, making the stream of consciousness drive continuously. But when you let go of craving, the river doesn't flow. It dries, and you are ceased. Where did the river go? It's not there anymore. So that's what goes across, just a stream of consciousness, cause and effect. Ajahn Brahm, can you please explain a little bit more about the gatekeeper for mindfulness? Should I instruct the gatekeeper at each stage? I find it a little discomfort for me to instruct the gatekeeper at each stage, and I feel like I'm waiting for the next stage to happen to instruct the gatekeeper. In my book, Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond, I mention the gatekeeper, which is one way, not the only way, of developing some mindfulness, where you actually tell yourself what you want to do. So it's like programming your computer. You put the message into your mind. If I start wandering off, this is what I will do. You give the instructions there. But the gatekeeper, the best gatekeeper, is a very kind gatekeeper. And a very, very kind gatekeeper will just sometimes let you wander off, just like that mother let her child just leave home, knowing the child will come back, knowing that was the most effective way of keeping the child happy at home. So a lot of times our gatekeeper, we use too much force, too much willpower, not enough wisdom power. Or just like that husband of one of the Malaysian girls who comes to our temple. She was married to an Australian man, and she knew her husband would love to meditate. He would really enjoy it. And he'd also enjoy the wise, kind teachings of Buddhism. And she tried everything, willpower, to try and get him to come to our temple. And nothing worked. So that's when she came to see me. Look, I'm sure my husband would love this. And it's great that he's my husband, I love him. It's great we could share things together. He could understand just my Buddhism, but he just will not come. Can you help me, Ajahn Brahm? Very simple, I said. Use wisdom power, not willpower. Don't try to get him to come here. All you need to do, I told her, buy one of my books, The Opening the Door of Your Heart book. Take it home with you. And when you take it home, tell your husband, keep your dirty hands off this, this is mine. And that's what she did. Told her husband, you can't touch this is mine, it's my holy book, leave it alone. I don't want you even to touch it. Now if you tell that to an Australian husband, you know what's going to happen next. As soon as she was out shopping somewhere, what does she mean, I can't touch her book? I can touch whatever I like. And so he picked it up, read the first story, and apparently didn't put it down until he'd finished. And now he comes every week. So this is how you do it. You don't use force, you use wisdom power to get things done. So use wisdom power for the gatekeeper. And just, your mind wanders off. Why? And it's because you're not kind to your mind. Okay, here's the story again. One of my other little stories is the story of being invited out for a cup of coffee story. So, one afternoon you receive a telephone call and it's a friend. They say, are you free this afternoon? You say, yes. Well, come out for a cup of coffee. We're going to Dome Coffee Shop because I like Dome. I know you don't like it, but I like it and we're going there. And you're going to have a cappuccino because I like cappuccinos. I know you usually have lattes, but that's bad for your health, so you're going to have a cappuccino with me. And you're not going to have one of your muffins. You're going to have a biscuit because that's what I like. And we're going to sit in the back. I hate sitting in the front. And we're going to talk about politics because that's what I'm interested in. And we're going to stay there for 1 hour and a half because that's the time I have to kill. So this is what you're going to do. See you there. And now, of course, in this simile, if you receive a telephone call like that from a control freak who's telling you where to go, what to drink, where to sit, and how long to sit for, and what to talk about, you do anything to escape. So you think up some excuse. Oh, I've got to go to the dentist. I go, oh, terribly sorry. It slipped my mind. I've got to go to the dentist. So some other time. Maybe next lifetime, but not this lifetime. And so you refuse it. And then 5 minutes later, you get another phone call from another friend. And they say, are you free this afternoon? You say, no, I've got to go to the dentist. Oh, that's a shame. I remember this coffee shop you keep talking about, which you love so much, a small one in the back of Perth somewhere. I want to try that. And you say the lattes are to die for. So I don't usually take lattes, but you say so much about it, I'd like to try one. And you say the chocolate chip muffins just go so well with the lattes. I know I'm on a diet, but who cares? If you think it's so good, I'm going to have some too. And you're always talking about your Buddhism, Buddhism this and Buddhism that. I don't know anything about Buddhism, but I'd like to learn from you. Let's talk about Buddhism. And in the front, because you like sitting in the front, I don't usually like sitting there, but if you like it, we'll sit there. Now, if you get a person like that, wants to try what you like and talk about what you want in your coffee shop, you say, oh, I'm cancelling the dentist appointment, I'm coming. And you spend hours there, more time than you should, because you're with a friend who cares about you. And I use that simile because those two people are like the two meditators. Sometimes you tell your mind, right, sit down, you're going to watch your breath. You're not going to watch the breath at the tip of the nose, you're going to watch it at the tummy, because that's what I'm doing right now. We're going to sit for 1 hour. You always do 45 minutes. That's not long enough. 1 hour we're going to sit. And we're going to sit just in the hall, in the front, not in the back where all the people who pass wind are. We're going to do this right now. And that's how you treat yourselves when you meditate. No sloth and torpor, no worrying about. And when you do things like that, of course your mind wants to run away from you. It can't stand you. But if you sit down and say, how long do you want to meditate for, mind? You know, you can watch the breath if you want. You can do something else if you want. You know, what do you want to do, mind? And where do you want to watch the breath? You can watch it anywhere you like if you want. I'll be there with you. If you're so kind to the mind like that, of course the mind likes to stay with you. But if you're the control freak, your mind runs away as soon as it possibly can. It sees you coming. Oh God, not her again. I'm getting out of here. And it gets out of here in fantasies, plans which are totally useless, sloth and torpor. That is your mind escaping from you because you've got a bad relationship with your own mind. So if you change that relationship, make it nice and kind and gentle. Instruct your gatekeeper to be kind and gentle. And then you and your mind will like each other so much. You'll be sitting here having a wonderful time together, just like those two ladies in the coffee shop. Time just disappears, and hours go past, they're having a great time together, you and your mind. That's how it works. Is it the same between inner chatter and thought? And how about reflect in terms of Dhamma? Okay, inner chatter and thought are pretty much the same. Reflect in terms of Dhamma. Nice simile of the lake. We've got a couple of lakes here, maybe ponds, but they always like to exaggerate a bit. So you've got like a lake down the bottom there. And if you go there at night time, and maybe if it's a clear night, I'm not quite sure what it's like tonight, maybe you can see the moon and stars reflected in the lake. Only when the lake is perfectly still. But if there are some waves on the surface of that lake, the image is distorted and you can't see anything. The lake only reflects when it's perfectly still. Just like your mind will only reflect the Dhamma when there's no thoughts, no inner chatter. When it's perfectly still, only then do you see things as they truly are, without distortion. That's what we mean by reflection. That's what we mean by insight. When your lake is still, only then can you see things truthfully. Dear Ajahn, in mindfulness, bliss and beyond, the stage 1 of meditation described, present moment awareness, is it silently observing whatever that comes to your mind, or does it mean making your mind quiet? It just means being in the present moment. In other words, if you're not aware of the past, you're not aware of the future, it must be now. So many of these stages you can understand by what's missing, not by what's there. Just check what's missing. So past is missing, future is missing, it must be the present moment. The next stage, silence, the inner chatter is missing. There's no thought, no talking, it's missing, so it's silent. So a lot of these stages you understand not by what's there, but by what's not there. Is it rather easy? Is it difficult? Needs loads of practice? 1 or 2? It's easy when you know how to do it. When you don't know how to do it, just life is so difficult. So it's worth the practice until you eventually get the skill of it. Ajahn, is soya milk allowable to drink in the evening? Thanks. These monks, we spend so much hours finding out what is allowable and what is not allowable to drink and to eat. And that really sort of, after a while, you get fed up with that, all these years of trying to find out the loopholes. So what we usually do, and we decided for the monks, soy milk is not allowable. For the nuns, it is allowable. Don't ask me why. So if you identify with the nuns, then you can have soy milk. If you identify with the monks, you don't have soy milk. I just do it. Just have some soy milk, for goodness sake. You're not going to go to hell. You ate soy milk, bad and under, bad, bad. No, just don't do that. Just have it, for goodness sake. Dear Ajahn, to help, and don't ask me why we decided that. Dear Ajahn, to help me to try to detach from the thoughts in my head, I've started giving them names. For example, Mr. Worry, always saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? Ah, the what if. You know I like inventing new names. Now, adding more names to the English dictionary. And one of the words I invented was ineffable. You know, if you heard the word ineffable like God is ineffable, the Dharma, the truth, is so deep you can't put it into words. If you can't put it into words, it's called ineffable. And that doesn't really make much sense to me, but a much better word is ineffable. The future is ineffable. In other words, you can't say, what if this happens? What if something else happens? What if I do this? What if she does that? You can't if the future, because all those ifs never happened. So the future is ineffable. You can't if the future. And you can't if the past either. If only I had got up early this morning, I'd have been able to get the toast before that other person got all the bread before I could even get there. If I'd only... And you can't if the past. If I'd have only... If my girlfriend hadn't dumped me, I wouldn't have to become a monk. You can't if the past at all. So that's why you don't even look at the past. You don't worry about the future, because the past and the future is ineffable. So, Mr. Worry, that's being effable. Disciplinarian. Why can't you get up earlier like everybody else? Because it's not your fault. It's just cause and effect. There's nobody in here. There's no self. So what are you worrying about? I didn't sleep in this morning. There's nobody in here. It's just my 5 candles decided to take a rest. Nothing to do with me. I can't believe you. Mr. Positive, you can do it. And Mr. Future, can't wait to tell all my friends that Ajahn Brahm drinks his own urine. Drank his own urine. Not anymore. Is that all you remember me by? Oh, cheapers. If that's all you remember me by, that I drink my own urine, that really pisses me. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. When I hear a thought, I try to notice it and name it. Is this good to do? Yeah, you can name it if you want to, but the names are never good enough. So what it does actually interrupts the flow of your thinking. Because you're naming something, it interrupts it. So you can't keep on going because someone is always reminding you you're just messing around. So yeah, that can work. P.S. I am friends with the grumpy girl, and she is still very grumpy. Your grumpy certificate may be good for her, but not so good for her friends. Never mind, poor old Ronnie. Dear Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Chah said that Farang monks have stupid feet. That's Western monks. Do you think people from Southeast Asia are naturally more mindful than Westerners? If so, why? And I think this was especially compared to the villagers, because the villagers had not so much education, and the Westerners had huge amounts of education. So we were really up here. And the local villagers, because they were in the fields, in the forests, they were more used to that environment. So they were sort of much more in tune with the local environment. But especially Westerners, we thought so much and understood so little. So sometimes it's the thinking. We always have this silly idea that we can solve problems by thinking them through. And I think many of you have been trying to think through your problems for so many years, and they haven't got you very far. And one of the reasons I left academia, because I went to this great university, and you'd have dinner with Nobel laureates, and you got to know them socially in the college system. And that was very disappointing, To see like someone who's so intelligent, they get a Nobel laureate for chemistry, but they were just so stupid in life. And it was actually disillusioning. I thought, whatever intelligence you have, it's not really helping you be a happy person. And so because of that, I didn't want to go any further in academia. There must be some other path to use your intelligence for something which was useful, like happiness. So that's why I went over to Thailand, became a Buddhist monk over there. So I think the Westerners, that we have been trained to value thoughts. And one of the other things I said to the monks the other day, that we haven't really been able to value our emotions and understand the emotional world which we live in. We think so much, but we don't know just our feelings. That's why grief and anger they just control us all the time. For many of us, it's terra incognita. It's just unknown territory. We don't understand how grief works, and we always get caught by it. We don't understand anger, and even things like compassion, things which people assume they understand. You don't understand it. You know it, but you don't feel it. And that's why it's incredible when you do some metta meditation, you really get into it and it just overwhelms you. For the first time, you've understood what compassion and kindness is, what selfless love is. It's so powerful. And these are all things, emotions, which we think we should understand, but we don't understand it. We just live in thoughts all the time. And now we get to science, which says these emotions, they're just some epiphenomena of the brain. And love is just some chemical reaction between people. And there's something which is just demeaning these emotions by trying to reduce them into some sort of materialistic phenomena. It's obviously that's not true. Peace is nothing to do with chemicals. Compassion, kindness, love, bliss, that's not some secretion in the brain. It's the bliss makes the brain secrete, not the other way around. So this is some things which, when we get to know our emotions, as I said to someone in the interviews, even peace is an emotion, which people just don't understand, they don't know. So when you get to understand emotions, you feel life rather than think life, you're getting much closer to the truth. And this is why Buddhist monks, we're just kind, fun guys, because we learn about our emotional world. Thinking, you can argue with people about the benefits of vegetarianism or the Four Noble Truths, and so there's some scholars know more than I do, and they can quote more than I know, but there's something missing there. Just the kindness, the gentleness, the openness, the tolerance, the peace, the emotions. So that's why when that fellow, who was it, said, was it Davison, did the Emotional Intelligence book. Who was it again? Coleman, yeah. That was just a sort of an eye-opener for many people, to realise that people who are successful in life are not the ones who get the first-class degrees. It's the ones who have emotional intelligence. They're the ones who are successful in life. Not the ones who've been learned how to think, but the ones who learned how to feel. So that's sometimes some of the things we teach here as well. So I think the Westerners, stupid feet, they thought too much, they felt so little. My past partner is from Southeast Asia, and she falls asleep almost immediately every night while I lay awake for a while thinking. Sometimes my daydreams, fantasies cause me to break into a sweat. Thanks. Yeah, isn't it a wonderful thing to be able to sleep well at night? What a great gift that is. So many people, and why do you just stay awake at night, worrying or fantasizing? It's a time to rest. You need your sleep. And it's going to ruin your health if you don't sleep well and sleep deeply. And why do we do that? It's because we think our way, trying to worry about our problems, about what you have to do tomorrow, what happened today. So please, one thing you can do is to do the little exercise when you go to bed. You're wearing your slippers. When you don't take your slippers into bed with you, I hope. So when you take off your left slipper, identify that with your past. So you're taking your past, all which happened to you today and before, and putting that under the bed. When you take off your right slipper, that's your future. So you take that slipper off and you put that under the bed as well. You don't take the past and future into bed with you. So you identify those two slippers, past and future, put them under the bed. They're going to be there for you when you wake up in the morning, but you don't take the past and future into bed with you. Relax and rest and have a nice night's sleep. And feel the peace. Feel the present moment. Get to understand it not as a thought, but as an emotion. And you get this beautiful emotion of peace, of kindness, when you go into bed. Feel it. And then you soon go into a beautiful sleep. Can an arahat become angry, or is she always satisfied? Well, they never get angry, arahats. That's one of the, even a non-returner can't get angry, and that's actually how we usually test people if they think they're enlightened. You know, we try and upset them, try and do anything to try and make them, what's that lovely story? It's in Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond book, that there was a young monk who wanted to become enlightened. This was in a monastery in China. It's in one of the Chinese books. Sung Po, I think, wrote this story. So he asked his abbot, said, "Now I am young, I am still got lots of energy, I don't want to do all this service, I want to go for enlightenment, go for broke in this lifetime." So he said, "I noticed not far from the monastery is an island, and no one's on that island, and it's so quiet. Can I build a little hermitage on that island? Just a very simple hut. And all I would ask, from you in this monastery is once a week, an attendant rows over in the boat and brings me supplies and then leaves me alone. If I need anything special, I just write a note, they can actually get it next week. So I can just meditate in perfect solitude." And the abbot said, "Of course, why not?" So they built a very simple hut for this monk. And then once a week, the attendant would go over to bring him some rice and some simple vegetables so he could eat, and just anything else he really needed. And so for 3 years, that monk was practicing in perfect solitude when he thought his meditation was so deep that he'd cracked it, he was enlightened, another arahat, enlightened being. So he thought, what should I do now? I need to tell the abbot about my attainment. So the next time the attendant came, he wrote a little note and asked for some parchment, some ink, and one of these quill pens, these feather pens. He wanted to do some calligraphy. So 1 week later, the attendant came with the parchment, the ink, and a pen. And then the attendant left. And then he decided to meditate really deeply. And when he came out of meditation, he took up the pen and the ink, and on the parchment he wrote in absolutely exquisite calligraphy, and the sort which should go in a sort of museum somewhere, the following verse in 4 lines, which is tradition in Buddhism to do a 4-line verse. "The diligent monk, alone for 3 years, is no longer moved by the 4 worldly winds." And that's like a metaphor for someone who's enlightened. The diligent monk, alone for 3 years, is no longer moved by the 4 worldly winds. And then he let the parchment dry, he rolled it up, and he waited for the attendant to come. And then very quietly he handed the parchment, his confession of enlightenment, to the attendant to take to the abbot. And he waited to see the abbot's response. 1 week later, the attendant brought the abbot's reply. It was a parchment very similar to his own. And when he opened it, he found it was his own parchment. But on the top line of beautiful, exquisite calligraphy, the diligent monk, the abbot had scrawled the 4 letters F-A-R-T. Fart. So what's this? And he looked to the next line. Alone for 3 years. This time in capital letters, F-A-R-T. What? The next line is no longer moved, and this time F-A-R-T with an exclamation mark afterwards. And the last line, by the 4 worldly winds, this huge F-A-R-T underlined exclamation mark afterwards. And it absolutely ruined the beauty of the calligraphy. It was like some sort of graffiti on a wall by some of these graffiti artists in Perth. And this monk was so upset that stupid old abbot couldn't understand enlightenment when it was in front of his own nose. And look what he's done to this calligraphy. It's so rare to find an enlightened being who can write like this. Beautiful calligraphy, great poem. I'm not standing for this. And he ran after the attendant, managed to catch him before he sort of rowed over the lake. Insisted on getting into the boat and being taken to the abbot's office. And so they rowed him back to the abbot's office. He stormed into the abbot's office, slammed the parchment on the table saying, "Explain this!" And the abbot very calmly sort of stood up and he opened out the scroll and read it to this monk. The diligent monk, alone for 3 years, is no longer moved by the 4 worldly winds. But, monk, 4 little farts have blown you clean across the lake. That's an old story, but it's a great one. And the monk realized he got angry. And so he hung his head in shame, got taken over to the island and stayed another 4 or 5 years there. He wasn't enlightened after all. So that's actually how we find out if someone's enlightened. We try and upset them, make them angry, anything, just to see if they've still got anger inside of them. And that's a very easy thing to do, because people get angry very easily. During meditation, how do we get rid of thoughts and worries of what might happen in our job and relationship in the future matters? Look at the future with a positive mind, with kindness. Just think positively. What might happen in your job? If you lose your job, wonderful. You don't have to go to work. Work is so stressful. You could actually become a monk. Woohoo! What would happen in our relationship? If it all busts up, that's even better. You can become a nun. Well, relationships are just so difficult, so troublesome, so stressful. What do you want a relationship for? Isn't having one set of 5 khandhas is enough? You have 10 khandhas. If you get married, sooner or later you've got another 5 khandhas coming on the way. And oh God, just having one sort of set of khandhas is enough to worry about. The 5 khandhas, the body, the feelings and everything else. Oh, jeepers. So it's wonderful. Keep it simple, for goodness sake. So, happening in our jobs. There's one guy, he wrote back to, he actually called his mum. He said, "I've got a job in an office in Kalgoorlie." "What office is it?" "The dole office," he said. He goes there once a week to get social security. That's his job in the dole office. But anyhow, so get a simple job. What do you need so much money for? To get the big house and the big car. What do you need a big house for? Get a simple house. Smaller the better. A tiny apartment. The tinier the better. It's much easier to clean. How big a place do you need to sleep? How big a kitchen do you have? How many toilets do you have in your house? You don't use one at a time. How many TV sets? People are actually crazy. How much big refrigerators you have? And how much stuff do you have in there which you never use? How many clothes do you need? How many pairs of shoes do you need? How many feet have you got? Divide the You think there are centipedes living in these people's houses today? So, if you keep it simple, then you can live with very little, which means you don't have to work so hard. You can get a part-time job. You can retire early. You can retire at 23, like I did. So keep it simple, and then you don't have to worry so much. If you live a very expensive lifestyle, you have a lot to worry about. Big debts to pay off, lots of sort of things to earn. So it's much easier to have a simple lifestyle. Last question. When I meditate, it is as if I have 2 minds. While breathing in and out, I still have thoughts coming in and out at the same time. Is this normal? The person who had the split personality? It's the old idea of schizophrenia, when you have like split personality. That their aspiration when they became a Buddhist was to be 2 with everything. That's a joke. You know, most people, they want to be one with everything, but schizophrenics, they want to be two with everything. Okay, that's maybe a bit late for jokes. You have two minds while breathing in and out. You have thoughts coming in and out at the same time. If you're very sharp, you notice you're either aware of the thought or you're aware of the breath, but you can't be aware of the two things at the same time. You just flip back from one to the other. So take a choice. What do you really want to watch, the breath or the thoughts? The thoughts, you've been watching the thoughts for such a long time. They're a waste of time. Even the way the Buddha taught about thoughts, it was really gross. He said, it's like a young man or a young girl going out for a party, all dressed up in finest clothes, scented, coiffed their hair, and really clean, and they find that someone puts a carcass of a dead dog around their neck. Imagine you were just all dressed up and that happened to you. Someone put a stinking dead dog carcass around your neck. And the Buddha used that simile. He said, that's like putting thoughts around your beautiful mind. That's really sort of a heavy simile, but that's what the Buddha said. Why do you put these thoughts around your beautiful, peaceful, wonderful mind? So why don't you take the value away from thinking and give it to silence instead? You'll find that silence is very beautiful, it's full of happiness, but it's also, that's where you find answers to questions, not by thinking, but with silence. There's one lady some years ago, she's buried at the, or her ashes are down by the dam somewhere. It was Wani Nut, if you remember her. She came on a retreat once. She was a senior social worker, and she told me she had this, one of her jobs was to decide whether the children should be taken away from the mother, because the mother was just incompetent of looking after her kids, maybe alcoholic or drugs. It's such a difficult decision to make. Taking kids away from their mum because their mum was incapable of looking after them. So she knew it was just a lose-lose decision she had to make sometimes. So she was high stress. She came late one evening. This is the old time we used to have the retreats over in North Perth. Came very late for the retreat. She told me she was just really, really tired, trying to tie up all the loose ends, but never managed to do it, but came to the retreat anyway. First couple of days, rested, then started getting into some meditation. In the middle of the retreat, she came out to me and said, it was amazing. I wasn't thinking about work. I dropped it completely because I really need the rest. And I was getting very peaceful in meditation. And these answers came up to the problems at work. These brilliant solutions to some of the worst problems I have to deal with. And he said, they just came up from nowhere, from silence. And I'm going to write them all down. I've written them down, she said, and when I go back to work, I'm not going to think about them now, I'm going to implement them when I go back to work. And that's how she solved the problems in her work. She said, I could never get such great solutions through thinking about them. And after a while, you realize that the silence is where the wisdom comes from, and even in work. So that takes away the importance of thinking. So you can let the thinking go and just watch the breathing. You know, the thoughts are just so much rubbish. You should know that by now. You've been listening to them, seeing them. They don't get you anywhere. And after a while, you just let them go. And you're peaceful and still and become much wiser. All wisdom comes from silence, not from thinking. So when you know that and you value the silence, you don't have two minds. Just the thoughts. No, I don't want them at all. You let them go. But if you value the thoughts, if you still think that's going to solve problems and give you solutions, the thoughts are going to continue again and again and again. So see if you can value the silence instead of the thoughts. And that is emptiness. All gone. Finished at last.